One.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Robert Evans, and tonight I'll be going over some key things that I have learned in my personal and social ethics class. It is my goal that each and every one of you learn a little bit of the insight that I did while taking this humanities course. Tonight, I will be going over 3 biblical passages that reflect my understanding of Christian ethics. I will also be going over 3 ethical issues into which I have gained sufficient knowledge in. I will also give an illustration of a case study. And lastly, I will give a description of at least one ethical topic that I am currently undecided on. If at any time during my presentation you have a question or concern or need clarification, please stop me so I can address you. Without further ado, let me get into my biblical passages. First, Matthew 7:12. So in everything that you do, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The key word in this being everything. In everything that you do, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Not sometimes, not here and there, but in everything. Christ calls for us to live a godly life by leading by example. Therefore, that's exactly what we need to do, and that's what this passage, Matthew 7:12, also known as Golden Rule, supports. My next passage, Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Do not be conformed. That's the challenge. That's the key phrase in that Bible verse. It is so easy to be conformed to the ways of this world. It's easy to give in to the temptations that we face each and every day. However, my dad once taught me that the harder something is, the bigger the reward is going to be. Therefore, let's remember that when we're facing a challenge. Because as Christians, we have the biggest reward in store for any one of us. The next verse, James 1:12. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life. Key words, trial and persevere. Oftentimes, we all feel like the world is against us. We're going through a tough time. We feel like there's no one there to help us. We feel like people are only kicking us when we're down. We feel like we're drowning and no one's lending us a helping hand. But that's exactly what the world and what the devil wants us to think. And that's not the case. God is there with us. God will never give us something that we cannot handle. I once heard, every setback is a set up for something greater God has in store. Now that we have an understanding of the 3 biblical passages that reflect my understanding of Christian ethics, let's move into a different topic. War. What is war? War is defined as an actual, intentional, widespread armed conflict between political communities. Some people might say, well, is it justified? Well, just war is said to be maintained only wars of self-defense. So someone has to attack you in order for you to defend yourself. Although I believe self-defense is an absolute must, we cannot let that define who we are as a nation. We've got to defend ourselves, but that goes even deeper. If someone makes a threat on us, even though that action was not carried out, it's a threat. Do we let them come and cause destruction on our homeland and then go because we want to defend ourselves? No, we act first upon that threat. In Joshua 8, we learn that God ordered Joshua to go to the country of A and go to war with them. On that very day, 12,000 men and women died. So therefore, God supported that war by telling Joshua to go to A. We also learn in Zechariah 12:13 that it is our duty as Christian believers to defend Israel at all costs. Yeah, that's not us. We're not in Israel, but we need to defend them. What is a pacifist? A pacifist believes that war can never be justified, even if it's for self-defense. But the reality of the issue is that if we don't defend ourselves, we're going to be conquered. So it is imperative that we both protect our land and God's land at all times. The next of the 3 issues that I want to discuss is reproductive technology. Technology has been truly amazing, especially in modern day. Some of the major advances include intrauterine insemination, IUI. This is when the man's sperm is inferior or not enough. Rather than creating a baby through sexual intercourse, the sperm instead is directly inserted into the woman's uterus. The next example, gamete intrafallopian, GIFT. When a couple is infertile, this option involves a woman receiving hormonal treatment that allows her to release multiple eggs in one cycle. Then, The male sperm is received through masturbation. Once the sperm does release, they are treated and placed into the sperm and the eggs are treated and placed into the woman's fallopian tubes. The goal here is that through close proximity, conception will be had. The last is in vitro fertilization, IVF, very similar to GIFT. But rather than placing the eggs and sperm directly into the woman, they are placed into a petri dish. In the dish, the hopes are that these eggs and sperm will fertilize. Once upon fertilization, the fertilized eggs will then be placed in the woman's uterus. These are the 3 reproductive technologies that I believe to be completely ethical. The last of the 3 ethical issues that I feel I've gained additional insight from is one that is hardly discussed. It's a very uncomfortable subject: abortion. What is abortion? An abortion is a procedure to end a pregnancy. It uses medicine or surgery to remove an embryo or fetus or placenta from the uterus. Females often consider this to be a good option because they didn't plan on becoming pregnant. They feel that they are not ready, physically, mentally, or even financially. But is that the reason for abortion? I'm not the judge on this one. Are there other options out there? Well, Planned Parenthood seems to think so. In fact, Planned Parenthood delivers vital reproductive health care, sex education, and information to millions of women, men, and youth throughout the world. Great thing. Information is always good. And I support that. However, I can't support abortion, and Planned Parenthood does. What's the morality of abortion? The morality of abortion lies in Exodus 20:13 and the 6th commandment: thou shalt not murder. In Jeremiah 1:5, we learn that God had a plan for each and every one of us before we were even thought of. He knew our name. He knew what we were going to be when we grew up. Is it fair for an innocent little baby, not even born yet, to have that option taken from them? Abortion ruins that. Abortion takes away the opportunity for that little boy or little girl to grow up and be something amazing in this world. Next, I want to discuss an ethical issue. If I were to be a member of a jury panel and there was a convicted murderer, half of the jury panel says he deserves a death penalty, the other half doesn't. I'm the deciding factor. What would I do to convince the other remaining jury members that aren't convinced yet? Well, there's a couple things I need to consider. Does the evidence prove that he was guilty without a shadow of a doubt? What led up to the death of the victim? Was the defendant using a means of self-defense? And lastly, was the entire jury, other than myself, convinced, or did they need to be persuaded? For the purpose of this example, I'm going to say that no, he was not guilty amongst a shadow of a doubt. But he also couldn't be proved innocent either. So therefore, yes, there are consequences, but I can't support the death penalty. The 8th Amendment tells us that we should be against cruel and unusual punishment. Does the punishment match the crime? If there's even the slightest chance of him being innocent, no, the punishment does not match the crime. There's a nonprofit organization called the Innocence Project. Their sole purpose is to deliver freedom to people who were falsely imprisoned. To date, there's over 300 people that were falsely imprisoned for 10, 15, sometimes more than 20 years. If I send this guy to death, I have to live with the fact that knowing he might have been innocent, but he'll never have that option because he's now dead. Finally, what am I undecided on? My answer is gene therapy versus natural birth. Gene therapy is the test of a woman's child before birth to see if he has any genetic defects. If he does indeed have a genetic defect, we can then take a corrected gene, implant that into the woman, hopefully fixing any issues of a genetic defect in that child. Natural birth. Natural birth is easy. Natural birth says that you are going to put all your faith and all your trust 100% in God and knowing that your kid is going to be healthy. If not, knowing that God had a plan for your kid to come out the way he did. Very, very tough decision. What would I do? If I had a kid and I knew he was going to have a genetic defect, do I use gene therapy If I do, is that going against God's will? If I don't, can I live with the fact of knowing that there was something that I could have done to possibly prevent my kid from having genetic disability? It's a tough question. How do I come up with a solution? Well, maybe first I got to think about, will this harm my son or my daughter? Lastly, I need to consider, is it possible that I can gather a group of people who have used gene therapy? What are their success stories? What are their failure stories? Then I'll be able to make a good decision. Well, this concludes my presentation on what I've learned in my humanities class. Thank you all so much.